Hello, friends. Welcome to Kintsugi Experiences Testimonials. I have invited a number of our Kintsugi resilience practitioners and trainees to share a little bit about their experiences in the process of learning how to deliver Kintsugi as a material, a tool for those who are seeking healing, and also sharing of their experiences as they go through the process themselves. Again, this is CCC Kintsugi. Would like to welcome everybody here. We're so blessed to have Leah from Hawaii, Danny, Kansas, Marcus from Chicago, Sharon from Mississippi, and of course, Jerry from Arizona. We're quite spread out, but because of our commitment and also because of technology, it's possible for us to be together today through this sharing, as well as, by the way, each one of these folks, they have their own cohort, Kintsugi cohort, and they go through the process regardless of the distance. And this is the beauty of doing training nowadays. But we're here to give them opportunities to share the kind of experiences that they had or they have in this process, the internal work of Kintsugi. So what we're going to do is we will make this organic. I didn't ask them, I didn't give them any order. Whoever feels to go first, I'm going to invite them to share a little bit of their experiences in the process. We'll join to complete the experience, share some thoughts and feedback to the person sharing their experiences, and then we just go to the next person. Okay, so folks, whoever is ready to jump in, please do.
Sure, I can go, I guess. So this experience has been very hard in many ways, in the sense that you're peeling, layers of an onion one by one. I did not realize how many masks I had because I thought I was pretty grounded and level, but the more I went through the process of Kintsugi, the more I was able to zero in on some of the hurt and the pain that I've had, that has actually made an influence on how I behave and act and see the world today. And so it's been, like I said, it was hard, but it's also been a healing process. And I wish I could say I'm 100% healed, but it's been a journey, and I believe that God is using this to be able to bring more healing into my heart and my life.
Wonderful. Thank you, Danny. Anyone who could relate with Danny here?
I could. It's hard to the extent of your willingness to see, right? It's like, for me, it was like the first time I went to CTE, I was curious, what is this? How is it going to work? And it's organic, and then you're used to organic. But at the same time, it's like there are levels in the matrix, right? For you to break through. And I think the difference is, because it's organic, you are the one to jump through the glass, to the air, because if someone just explains to you, oh, this is all a matrix, this is all a matter of you experiencing your world, you might just not believe it. You prefer the blue pill, right? But in kintsugi, you're free, so you advance at will. It's not threatening.
Mm-mm.
In my experience with Vanessa, it was freeing, and I was surprised by the breakthroughs. You know, that sensation that you have. Oh, I didn't see that before. I didn't feel that before. I didn't know that, and I didn't see the extent. Sometimes you're looking at your problems with a microscope, and you don't see the big picture. And I think kintsugi gives the opportunity to see with both kinds of lenses, and it's beautiful when you see the big picture, and you can look at yourself and find who you really are, and answer this kind of abstract questions that might be difficult to understand. And I felt with the group like I was thrown with other dice on the table, right? Everyone shows one face. We all have the same numbers, but we show one particular one. Sometimes it's the same as others or similar, but it's like throwing the dice, and that's fun because it's never going to be the same. Very difficult to find a group that everyone has the exact same experience. So that's my first take on kintsugi.
So I would like to add or back up what Marcos is saying, that, I mentioned it was hard, but it's also a beautiful process. To be able to see clearly, what you're going through, what you're thinking, and where that's coming from. It is liberating in many ways. So it is a beautiful process.
I would definitely say that kintsugi is a space that I'm able to gain feedback, receive responses from a different lens. And like you said earlier about the mask, I would say one of my growing edges is the sense that responses from a different lens. And like you said earlier about the mask, did I freeze?
No.
Okay, it just echoed on my end.
Yeah, just echo. Just go ahead. Go ahead. Keep saying what you're saying.
Danny mentioned about the mask. One of my masks, a growing edge, I learned from my externalization of the mirror and the mask is productivity. Sometimes doing good things or actions could be a mask, because it's something that I can hide behind and gain validation from it. So that was a really biggie for me, because I would have never thought of that in that way. So I would say this process is detrimental for healing, for growth, for clarity, and to gain an understanding. Also, to expose that wounds are there. Sometimes we may, I would say for myself, I may not have been aware that it was a wound, but wounds, our body reacts to wounds in different ways. So this process is awesome. I really appreciate it because it's not something that I'm a part of every day. Even in our faith settings or even our homes or, relationship with our loved ones and families, we may not be able to get that feedback or responses that we get in this process. So I really appreciate it.
I have so many things to say. I have to really clarify my thinking right now. And thank you, Sharon. Each of you, and Marcos and Danny, each of you, I was kind of inside saying yes to what you were saying. I have had a really great experience with Kintsugi. It's an extension to me of our CPE, and that was really life changing for me. What I love about our Kintsugi sessions is that we bring a story. And in the past, recently, I brought a story from my own life of a time that was really, really hard for me. And after I presented it, I was thinking that my cohort was going to criticize me. And it was the total opposite. I thought they were going to find things in me and point out my failures, kind of a thing. And it was just the total opposite. They were there to help me see how I overcame in my story and how I was resilient and how I got through a really, really hard time in my life. Like, it wasn't my fault I went through that hard time. I made some bad decisions, but it just really reinforced in me how my thinking, like, I was ready for more condemnation that I already have for myself. And they were there to show me a way better, a better lens, a better a way to look at what I had just shared with them. And that happens over and over again. We bring something, our vulnerability, we bring these things that we have so much insecurity about, and we are then shown that bigger picture. And I would like to give an example. One of the things I've learned through the process is that I just don't value myself very much. In how I make decisions, I tend to look at, what are the needs of others, and think, there's this tendency in my thinking to think, well, if it's good for me, that's being selfish, and so I've recognized that. And now that I know that about myself, I can move forward differently in my life. And so just recently, I had the opportunity to get a better job. And I didn't want to leave my old job. I did really like it. But when I learned that when I had a job interview and learned that this new position could be really good for me personally, I just thought, but my ministry is to serve others. Doesn't matter what it's like for me. And I was like, oh, Leah, that's that thinking, and so I could go about this decision with like a new look at the situation, thinking, okay, well, I know that if it's good for me personally, I'll do better in my work. I'll be healthier. I'll, do better. And so I took a new job, and kind of like by faith, even though it didn't feel right, I was very sad, but I knew it would be good for me, and that would be good for how I can work and how I can minister. And it really was the right decision. I cried and was very, very sad, and I was grieving, but I could recognize, okay, that's grief. You're sad, but you can also move forward, so that was a direct result of how Kintsugi really affected my life personally. And I'm only like a month into my new job, and feeling like, oh, this is wonderful in a lot of ways. And so I went from working in a hospital to working for hospice as a chaplain. So that, just to give you more context about that. Yeah, so that was just, I wanted to share that because that was even a personal one-on-one session with my Kintsugi supervisor that really helped me see that. But my cohort has been helping me all along the way. So that's another way that comes together with the one-on-one and the group. Yeah.
I resonate, Leah, just to tell you, hospice has been you know, a treasure because it gives, you know, your flexibility, it gives you that kind of relationship that is intense. I'd say hospitals, everything is intense in the hospital, but the hospice is, I think it's the ultimate intense. and with this experience, with everything that I've been doing, you know, not because I know Jeffrey, but the kind of CPE that I've been doing, I think there's something different about this kind of approach. You're afraid that people are going to be rude to you. Well, that's the case in some kinds of CPE, where people have this concept that they have to prove that they are smart, and then they leave out the heart. So they might gain prestige if they're good in finding out your flaws. And that's not the point at all, right? The point is basically how we're going to support each other in our process. And luckily, I was well prepared for my job because of this kind of approach, where there was no room for judgment, right? No matter what. I can talk to my worst enemy and I can listen to him, right? And I can have empathy at the same time that I can understand my wounds and my needs and myself in it, and give space to myself too, right? Not to create, not to, you know, to fall into this trap of being valued or value myself only if I do everything for others without taking care of myself. Right? This is hard for everyone. It's hard for me too, I suspect. Not in the same way though, because it feels wrong for someone that learned that he's not as important, right? To give yourself that importance, to make yourself gifts in life and give you opportunities, and not to feel like an imposter everywhere. Because I think even if you have 3 or 4 degrees, you're new to life every day, right? So everyone is in this situation of learning. But Kintsugi has given me more confidence to feel these insecurities without feeling that, no, I'm not fit to the job because of insecurity. No, it's okay, it's natural. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be capable of doing a good job. And so this is just one little aspect of Kintsugi that has benefited me. And in my interviews, my applications have been upgraded. I'm not afraid to perhaps apply to be in a lead position, or it doesn't mean that you can't. It's a matter of finding out what's true inside of yourself.
That is beautiful. I agree, Marcus. I'm on my self-care journey, and I believe that it would not be the same without this program, this course. And it amazes me that it's not just in the classroom. You know, you go to school, you do the work. It's not textual, but it's a part of everyday life. And I think about what Leah said about being uncomfortable going into a new job. And I think about the healing process. Oftentimes, I would say for myself that I think healing is something that's supposed to feel good. But healing doesn't feel good. I've had multiple surgeries, and the healing process is painful. It's some aching, it's some itching, it's some elevating of your limbs and all that type of things. But this Kintsugi is something that it affects everything, every part of my life. And it amazes me. So it's a renew, I renew my mind. My mind is renewed. I'm thinking about, I'm more aware of self. I'm more aware of what's going on with me. And I'm gently pushed to take a moment and pause and say, what do Sharon want? What am I feeling right now? Why do I feel this way? Those questions come to mind now than before I came into this program. So Dr. T.O. is definitely awesome. And I appreciate Russell and all the my peers that gave feedback. And I feel like that we're all connected. It's like we are family. And we have so much in common, more than we probably realize. So this community is not, to be taken lightly. I don't take it lightly. And I take a lot of notes because there's a lot of information and knowledge, and there's a lot of things to share with me that I have to just, I take a deep breath. I'm like, I needed that. And I tell Dr. T.O. a lot. I say, I feel like I'm in church, but better. So there's nourishment. And one thing I would like to share, Dr. T.O., he gave me a great feedback. I did a choreography externalization on the dance. And he stated that the trauma is not what happened to me, is the lens that I see them through. So that is something that has stuck with me. Because trauma changes the way that I think. It changes how I look at things, how I react, and my expectation. So that was really deep for me, and I I really appreciate it.
And that's beautiful, because it is true. I think it's our the way we interpreted the trauma, the way we analyzed it and internalized it, is more of a pain than the actual trauma to begin with sometimes, because it's more lasting, for sure. But and I like to just go back and talk about the atmosphere within the group, because there aren't many places where you could be so transparent and so vulnerable and yet feel safe. And I believe that our leader sets the table for that, and she modeled that. And I think I really love my cohort, because I think they do that for me, and we try to do that for each other. We're not looking to judge, we're looking to see things clear. And as we see things more clearly, then healing can be more profound, and it can be lasting. And so I really love that aspect of it. I had to miss a couple of weeks because of different issues with work, and I really missed that group sensation and the camaraderie that we had with each other, because yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like church, but you still wear a mask sometimes at church. You really can't be open as much as we are in this group, and it's so refreshing to have that experience. But maybe I could ask a question, if I could. Do you find yourself in a normal conversation wanting to go deeper with the things that we're learning with people outside of our setting?
Is that for anybody?
Yeah.
Yes, I take it to my counseling sessions. And even my counselor, like, oh, I never thought about it like that. So we have a jewel here. I just, want to shout that out. And I take it everywhere. Like I said earlier, it's a part of life. And you can't help but to, think about it, because it's training. It's like I said earlier, we renewing our mind. We renewing the way that we think. So I believe it's going to come out. whether we realize it or not. But definitely in my counseling sessions, I go faithful to my counseling sessions. I'm excited. I'm like, you know what? I thought about this, and and I share it. And sometimes they like jotting down some stuff. I'm like, I'm going to charge you for that. So I really appreciate it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
What
Right.
I find, oh, go ahead, Marcos, if you want to go.
No, I was just gonna ask you to repeat the question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Danny, repeat it.
If you find yourself trying to use the kintsugi group dynamics on a one-on-one, just in casual conversations, because I look at things differently now, and I look for the emotions and the feelings and where did that come from, and you don't always have time to deal with it with individuals, but it's like I just wondered if I was the only one, because if I was crazy or not.
You want to talk, Leah?
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest benefit for me is that when I'm with someone else, I'm more aware of what's going on inside of me. And that changes everything, because if I'm getting uncomfortable, I'll think, well, okay, what's going on? Or is it what they're saying? Is this something I'm inside of me that is getting triggered? Or do I want to be in this situation? Do I want to be in this conversation? I'm just so much more aware of what's happening in my inner world, and I trust it so much more. So I trust my inner experience to be honest, and I can I trust myself more, and excuse me. And so that changes my responses to that person. I can either choose to engage and go deeper and turn on the reflexive, and healing listening. I like to call it healing listening, because if I want to be there for that person and show up and really allow them to express more fully what they're saying, sometimes they get a little surprised and think, oh, whoa, this is getting like, you're really listening to me, I can share more. Or I can think, this isn't the right time and situation. We'll just keep it where the situation is, more on the surface. I think that's what they really that's better for here and now. And that's, that happens when people say, oh, I don't want to cry right now because I'm at work. People tell you too, just like, don't be a chaplain with me right now because, I have to hold it together. Can we talk later? Kind of a thing. But I think what I was prompted to respond to your ultimate question though, Danny, or what I'm thinking of and where it's bringing me, is that I have so much more freedom because I have more ability to understand a situation for what it is. I have the freedom, instead of feeling a compulsion to be there for someone, I have the freedom to say, what's the most appropriate thing for me? What's the healthiest thing for this person? What's the, what is the bigger context going on? What are they really asking of me? Or I can just clarify it and say, what kind of conversation do you want to have right now? I have, and I used to more just feel a compulsion to lean in and get intimate with, in a conversation with someone, or I felt I know the compulsion is a strong word, but I would feel the need to share my own personal story with someone in order to get close with them and kind of build on that conversation. And now I realize, oh, I can choose to share what's best for me to share because I have another outlet where I can share more personally and be more vulnerable. You know what I mean? So I'm also able to gauge in a situation with someone how safe it is to open up instead of oversharing, you know, because I couldn't hold back.
You
So
triggered me. You triggered me now. You're triggering me, right? Because I used to do this, right? I would speak to anyone that would be close by to see which one would listen. But in the end of the day, when people don't listen, it traumatizes you a little more. It's like, it seems like no one understands, and it might be just nothing, and I might be crazy. So this idea and the sensation of power that you have when you know that you have a story that is bigger than what the person is saying, and you to the point that it goes to the extraordinary, right? I just heard this from, like, I put my losses on a prompt in ChatGPT, right? And I asked for coping suggestions, and even ChatGPT was like, "What?" Artificial intelligence was shocked, right? So this is an extraordinary level of loss, right? One after the other. So I understand that what is it that I went through, that it might not be appropriate for the case, and you want help to focus on the case because it's such a mess, such a big tree is going to make a shadow in that person. So we kind of want to learn that in CPE, but I think the focus on yourself that Kintsugi gives will deal with it much more deeply. And it feels so good to know that you could say something, but you don't, because you don't have to, right? It doesn't, you're not, now you see better, right? You see the picture there, you analyze, you just don't go like the kid grabbing the mom's skirt, right? Like, mom, listen to me, because we are here to serve the other, right? And we serve us better by being safe with ourselves, because it's true for us as chaplains, even with our level of training, sometimes we're judgmental because we can't just change who we are from one day to the other. Imagine the regular population when they cannot have this opportunity for education and focus on growth like we have. So yes, Kintsugi is an excellent tool for us to feel power over our own story.
When you both were sharing, I think about wholeness, being satisfied with self. And that's a biggie for me that I learned is, that validation doesn't come from production. And on page 81 of Unshakable, it talks about the path to wholeness is not about perfection, but progress. So I think about a time that I went to the nursing home, and I'm one that always give out snacks and things of that sort. And one time I went and I didn't have anything. And one of the residents said, "You know what, Sharon, I appreciate you coming. You don't have to bring anything, just you being here." So that was kind of like a check, a reset button, like, yeah, you're right. So some patterns and tendencies have lingered, and they have been highlighted in this program. And I really appreciate all the nuggets that I get. It definitely caters to my growth. And it lets me know that it's a wound still there. It also lets me know if healing has taken place or the process of healing has started. So that's a biggie for me.
Thank you for sharing. I have a question for you because the goal is for you to be channel of these blessings as well. Eventually, you will be joining our force, in facilitating, mentoring, or training others, whether people who are in crisis or chaplain themselves. What do you think, being on that end, what do you think would be challenging for you as you prepare yourself to be the sort of mentors for others in Kintsugi process?
I would say the challenge would be me itself. Just, having that conversation with myself and applying the tools that I have learned and embracing it, not going back to the old ways, embracing that I am enough, that Jesus was broken for me so that I can be on this healing path. I look at, the story when Thomas didn't believe and Jesus told him to touch his hands, touch his side. So I can think about things of that sort to let me know that I'm not alone. I have a great support group and that I believe this is my purpose, to be a help to others. So just reminding myself that it's not me. I'm a vessel, that I'm not alone, and that I'm equipped to grow and to help others to do the same.
I feel like my biggest challenge would be similar to what I experienced as a student of Kintsugi, and that is I bring a story or someone brings a story from their life, and I get caught up in the details of it. And I love it when my Kintsugi supervisor sees the bigger picture and kind of gives us this overarching theme to follow and, a kind of a step back. And I am concerned that as a teacher, I would lose track of the bigger picture and be focused on the details. And so I that's my goal, is to continually remind myself to step back. Okay, what's the bigger picture here? And stay with that. What are the themes? What are the subtexts? I just loved it when Linda did that the first time. And even when she would summarize at the end for us, what had happened in class. It was like, wow, how did she do that? And I look forward to learning that skill, honing in on that skill.
Yeah, I think that's that's part of what we have been wrestling with from the very beginning, is how much of self is introduced, and but that was sort of my question from earlier. Not that I wanted to share, but I want for so many people to experience what I've experienced. I want them to go through the process, because it is hard, but it is such a beautiful journey that God is leading us through, and the way that the group setting just nurtures that growth. It's sort of our leader doesn't really birth us, but she creates the environment for us to be birthed, and so that's one of the things. If I could learn those skills, I would love for as many people as I know to go through this process, because it is such a rewarding experience, to come to the other side of your healing.
Yeah, and another thing that is a sign of, I think, of the ability to lead a class is to be able to, you know, we talk about often the activating event or the trauma or the, you know, the challenging situation we had, and then the conclusion that we drew from that, and that, and to stop and say, okay, let's dispute that conclusion. You know, there's the activating event, and then there's a false belief that led to that conclusion. You know, the A, B, C, activating event, false belief, and then the conclusion or the consequence. But that is another ability that we learn, is to identify when there is an activating, you know, when there's a situation, and then the consequence from that, but to that there's that middle piece that has to be teased out, and a good leader is able to say, okay, let's stop here and break that down a little bit.
I would just go ahead.
No, you can finish.
No, you can go ahead. I've shared. Go ahead.
For me, it's the Cassandra syndrome, right? If I see things happening and I see that the group or the individual, it's so far away from what we can see, that he's not listening. I think I might be overwhelmed in a moment because of this desire, this belief that I have, that if the person understands, they're going to be able to make progress. But now I'm doubting that. So what am I going to rely on? Because I believe that my skill was to understand things. And now with our reality of what's going on in the world, I see that it's so difficult for people to understand simple things because they don't want to. So I'm kind of feeling, wow, in this process, Danny, that you want to bring to other people, there will be people that just don't want to see. And they continue to Photoshop things, right? To create this bubble, to create this reality, to justify everything. So I might fall in that doomsday prophet that nobody listens to, and kind of it could trigger me, right? In terms of, but then the fact that I know that, I think it's going to be a plus for me, because I will know that I will get a little desperate. How come it doesn't sit down inside of me? Oh no, what can I do now? I cannot just tell him, because then you're painting a picture. You're using the trauma to take a trauma out, because you're giving your take as rule. When the person didn't go through it herself, didn't see it herself, that's when people actually accept reality. When they themselves, they don't suspect themselves anymore, but they might suspect you more. But anyway, yes, this is one thing that I have to deal with, and I have to, I'm learning how not to speak and not to say things like Leah told, right? Is this appropriate? Should I just tell the person, you're being obtuse, you're running away, or something rude? That's not gonna do anything for no one. It's not safe, right? When people are, forced through the glass, through the building, you have to be willing to jump. You have to be willing to do it. So I have to learn how to give the responsibility to the person and treat the person as an equal and not as a child. I think it's a challenge when you see something and you want to say, look here, I saw it before you, so I don't want you to stumble here. But sometimes the only way is to stumble on it and fall on your face and say, now I see the light and the blood. Right?
I agree. That was kind of the line I was going to share. We on the same page. Is survivor centered. We can't push our pool is their journey, their process. So that's a big help to me to just, be open, to not go in like I'm gonna fix something. I'm not, can't even fix my own, but it's a journey. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off of me, knowing that that is their journey, just reminding myself that I'm not to hold up a sign and say, hey, don't you see this, but it's a way to do it, but you want them to process it their way.
Well, it's time for us to recap. So, one final question, and I hope you would be generous in sharing or inviting, because the question is, what would you say to a fellow practitioners, chaplains, or in the field of mental health, for example? How would they? How would you let them know of your experience? How would you invite them, in fact, to see the value of this and maybe be part of this if you are talking to someone in your practice?
Well, for one, I would have to be transparent and probably give some examples of some of the externalizations that I have been through, done, and excuse me, how it has helped me, and show that how it's shown me some areas of need, areas that I have wounds and in need of healing, and how I am today, like the beginning to now. I could share like more of a testimony of how it's helped me and how it's still helping me today, and talk about the mindset and the way I see things and the way that I process my here and now.
Well, thank you, Sharon. Some of them might be listening right now, or watching us right now. Feel free to talk to them directly. Anyone?
So I would recommend it to anyone, but especially those of us who are in chaplaincy or mental health, because it is good to come again to have a safe space where you can debrief, that you can be able to see things more clearly and be able to analyze things. And it is a journey of not only self-healing, but it also is a journey of being able to identify masks and so on, that you can help obviously yourself, but you can help others in the process. And so I would I highly recommend it. I think it's an experience that I wish I would have done it earlier in my life, because I would have been in a much better place right now had I taken some of these principles into mine.
So
Dan,
go ahead.
Well, Danny used the word encourage. I highly encourage. And I was thinking I would like to challenge everyone who is in a position of helping others, ministering to others, to think about how can you continue to put yourself in that position if you're not willing to be in the position of the one being helped. I am just a really firm believer that you need to be part of the process of what you are trying to, or what you are utilizing when you're reaching out to another, that you really need to experience that yourself. And the amount of investment that you put in is, you're going to get that out of it. And so it's work. It's a lot of hard work, and it's wonderfully transforming work. And you really have to experience it. And it is difficult to say what this experience is and what a kintsugi cohort is like. You can say the results that you've gotten from it, and you can somewhat describe the process you've been through, but you really have to just enter into it and surrender to it and trust the process. And that's hard for people who have wounded trust. Or wounded love, or wounded faith. So I just hope that, yeah, my message comes across to give it a try, taste and see how good it is.
Well, I'm doing a certification on marketing right now, so I'm kind of influenced by that. So it would depend for me and what type of chaplain I'm talking to, right? If it's someone like me, I would entice the person and say, look, this is fascinating, right? It's the depth of it, the things you're going to learn, right? You know, I'm so curious about this. When Dr. Thiel talked to me about, I was so curious. I want to know what was there that I didn't know, and the depths of it. Oh, I'm going to dive into more knowledge, and I'm going to go to another level. And if that's your thing, that's what you're going to get. If you are someone that is a helper, Leah just talked about that, right? You're going to be able to help people in such a depth and in much better way if you go through this process yourself. So what appeals to them. Like if you're there, it depends on who you are, but there's something for you here too. Let's say one more example. Let me look here what kind, right? The enthusiast, right? Yes, I mean, if you really, for the enthusiast, it's more like hope, right? It's like, do you think you can be whole? Do you think you can live a life that satisfies you and that you can overcome everything that happened to you, right? That's the way, right? Otherwise, you're going to stay in the same and stuck. So it depends on the person that is right here with me, the way I would talk to them. And I have some friends, and I've been talking and trying to find out what kind of Enneagram type they are and show them that there's something for them here. Fundamentally, it's about healing. But being healed or being in a healthy process will give to you what you're looking for as a human being, no matter your style. Because so that's what I think my approach would be more like marketing. but that's it. It's now or never, right? We have one life. Why are you just gonna even if you're a chaplain, you might get bored sometimes. That tells a lot. That tells a lot about the way you're working. You want to have fun. You want to, go to a new level. This is the way, right?
Thank you.
Jeff,
Go ahead.
As we draw to a close here, let me thank everybody for your input. This just shows you that the kintsugi experience is quite varied. Your perspectives, and it's wonderful. Jeff asked the question: how would you encourage someone to take this? That's my paraphrase. And that's a great question. I leave you with a rhetorical question, one that could go deeper into the question that Jeff asked about encouraging others to take this, to go through this experience. And the question that I asked is, how do you see kintsugi versus chaplaincy? Again, that's a rhetorical question to take with you as you further your experience with kintsugi. Thank you again.
Great question, Jerry. Maybe that opens a door. Maybe it's a bigger door for, next week's discussion. So yeah, keep that in mind. And maybe we have some folks who are watching and maybe asking the same kind of question. To some, it's not rhetorical. Maybe it's really, the curious, honest question. What is this, and how is this different from chaplaincy? We didn't cover that, but I'm glad we asked that. So maybe as we continue, folks, we'll try to invite people who experience kintsugi at least once a week to continue this sharing. So we will try to address that in the future. Thank you, Leah, Danny, Marcus, Sharon. Thank you for joining us today. May you continue to work and continue in your journey. I believe that as you go through this process down the road, you would be part of the light that whatever light, this kintsugi thing, the whole thing. I'm not only talking about individual kintsugi. We are, metaphorically speaking, we are the kintsugi, and our brokenness will somehow down the road will be shining with the golden lacquer that we have tried to apply on it. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Thank you. Aloha.
Great.
Until next time.
Well, yeah, Sherwin will take care of the ending here, but let me just, this is off the air now. Thank you very much for joining us.